How come some people do not believe in the rapture? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Well, the short answer to the question of why people don't believe in the rapture is simply because they don't want to believe in the rapture. It doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. But no, seriously, the real reason, based on my observation, that is, as to why people don't want to believe in the rapture is simply because of the extreme horrors of dispensationalism. And I mean, that's one big thing. And the other thing is, your Left Behind series and people getting snatched up into the sky and stuff. And really just the ridiculousness of a lot of the pre-trib rapture beliefs that came out of the 60s and 70s and 80s and stuff. Lots of wacky, crazy stuff. The problem, though, particularly with partial preterist and preterist, people who don't believe in the rapture, the problem with those people who don't believe in the rapture is that, they basically threw the baby out with the bathwater. And it's very, very, very problematic, actually. The reason why it's problematic is because the Bible does talk about a rapture. The Bible talks about being caught up into the air. It talks about this resurrection type thing. Obviously the word rapture is not in the Bible, but the concept is in the Bible, and it's all over the Bible too. So the question is, what do you do with it if you're a rapture-less person? Well, what it ends up happening is they end up getting into semantic debates and redefining terms and then arguing over words. And basically it's just a bunch of noise, people whining and crying and yelling and screaming about stuff that they don't know anything about. So what we're going to try to do today is clear up some of this nonsense that happens in these circles of people running their mouths about stuff they don't know anything about. We're going to try and clear up some of this garbage and sort of make it very simple. So if this is your first time ever hearing anything about people who don't believe in the rapture, just know that there are people out there who don't believe in the rapture, and the reason why they don't believe in the rapture is because they found some book or they watched some movie or they heard some pastor dude say a whole bunch of crazy nonsense stuff and they got freaked out about it. And so they said, well, I don't believe in a rapture anymore. Okay, well, that's cool. Anyways, before we get too far into this video, I want to tell you about my YouTube channel and why I think you should subscribe to my YouTube channel. First of all, this is a Bible study channel. What do we do here? We study the Bible. We take the Bible seriously because we seriously study the Bible. And I think you should subscribe to this channel because what I'm really trying to do, my goal is to build one of the biggest Bible studies on YouTube. So if you want to be a part of this movement, you want to be a part of this community, go ahead and click subscribe and hit the bell notification. We are trying to build a community here. We are trying to build a really, really great Bible study. And we're trying to put out really, really great information about the Bible, and we're trying to educate people about the Bible. So that's what we do here. We talk about history and theology and spirituality, and our goal is to learn about the Bible and increase our knowledge of the Bible and also improve our relationship with God. So if you're interested in a Bible study that is on the internet, that's online, that's absolutely free, and you can get really cool information, this is the channel for you, and you should go ahead and click subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell notification because I publish a brand new video every single day. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you at the beginning of this video that my name is Adam Jordan Clark, in case you didn't know, and this is my channel. So if you want to subscribe, click the subscribe, the little bell thing, and give this video a thumbs up, because if you don't like the video, I don't know that you liked it. So we have two passages that we're going to be talking about today. We're probably going to be focusing on one of them because one of them sort of, really pinpoints what we're actually trying to talk about here. And actually, if you were in the video yesterday with us, what you'll know is that these two passages, we actually used them yesterday to talk about false teachers. So today we are still kind of talking about false teachers, but what we're actually talking about is the specific false teaching that they taught. And what was the specific false teaching? Well, the false teaching that they were teaching, that we're going to read about here in a couple seconds, is that the resurrection, the rapture, the being caught up into the sky in the twinkling of an eye, whatever you want to call it, That teaching, people were saying in the first church, in the first century, early church, they were saying it already happens. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? It kind of sounds like preterism, doesn't it? Because you talk to the rapture about the rapture to people who are preterist or partial preterist, and you talk about the end times and stuff, and what do they tell you? They say, "Oh, that stuff already happened." Well, it's really sad to call yourself a preterist and make such a mistake like that, especially when there are people like you in the Bible. So if you are a preterist, my advice to you is not to listen to me, but to open up your Bible and read it, because preterism is a heresy. I made a whole video about it. It's not just my opinion. It's actually a heresy because it's in the Bible. The Bible condemns preterism. It's nothing new. Preterism has been around since the early days. Preterism is the idea that it already happened, that all prophecy has been fulfilled, and blah, 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 blah. Look, guys, that's dangerous stuff. It's heresy. We're going to talk about it in this video. 1st and 2nd Timothy both talk about false teachers. We talked about them yesterday. Hymenaeus and Alexander is mentioned in 1 Timothy, and Hymenaeus and Philetus are mentioned here in the 2nd epistle to Timothy. Now, obviously, this Hymenaeus that is mentioned in 1st and 2nd Timothy is the same person. And I actually think that this Hymenaeus was probably like a ringleader. He was probably like a false apostle, if you will. He was somebody who was going around teaching false doctrines. And one of the false doctrines that he was teaching was really, 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 really bad. We're reading the NIV here, and if you look at 2 Timothy, we'll zoom in here so we can see it. At verse 17, it says, their teaching, whose teaching is that? It'd be Hymenaeus and Philetus and Alexander. And their teaching will spread like gangrene. That's how the NIV puts it. It'll just spread. It'd be a horrible disease. Among them are Hymenaeus and Philetus. So there were other false teachers teaching this, much like we see in preterism. And they have departed from the truth. What truth? Well, it goes on to tell us that they say that the resurrection has already taken place, and they destroy faith in some. Isn't that amazing that we have a very clear passage here in the Bible about people who are saying, oh, the rapture, the second coming of Christ, or the calling away, if you will, or the being caught up into the sky. And I know this is where we get crazy because the preterists like to say, well, look, it's not the rapture, it's the resurrection, because that's what the Bible calls it. Like, yeah, but the people who call it the rapture are just calling it the rapture because it's a cool word. We just say, look, dude, it's the rapture. Of course it's this resurrection. The point is that everybody agrees that it's this process of dead believers and believers who are caught up into the sky. How do we know that? Because Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians, he says, those who are dead and those who are alive will meet Jesus in the air. Well, we know he's not talking about only dead people because he mentions the ones who are alive. Well, I'm alive and I'm a believer, so what does that mean? It says that I'll go be caught up into the sky. It's not funeral language, guys. Don't be deceived. So what we have here is a very clear representation of false teaching. It says their teaching will spread like gangrene, and of course we're seeing it 2,000 years later, so that speaks for itself. And among them are Hymenaeus and Philetus, who have departed from the truth, which means they're teaching a false doctrine. And they say that the resurrection has already taken place. This is just one of the false teachings that they were teaching. And you know what, guys? It says that they have destroyed people's faith. They've taken this false teaching of the resurrection or the rapture has already happened. We missed it. We missed it, guys. Let's keep on going and living our lives however we want to, because Jesus already came back. All prophecy's been fulfilled. They were teaching this stuff in the early church. And here we got a letter. It's in 2 Timothy and 1 Timothy, by the way. And they were fighting against this false teaching. They were saying, look, these people have come into our churches and they started teaching lies. They started teaching false doctrines, and it will spread like gangrene. And here we are 2,000 years later, and we still have the same lie being spread among our churches, which is that there is no rapture, that Jesus already came back, and yada, 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 yada. All this ridiculous nonsense that we hear from preterism and partial preterists. And I'm going to tell you guys straight up, none of their arguments are sound. None of their arguments are in the Bible. They're all very faulty. And it's not sound doctrine. It's very, very unwise for people to look at the horrors of dispensationalism. And I do call it horrors. The Left Behind series is a horrible, horrible, horrible series. This idea of escapism is a horrible, horrible idea. Obviously, any rational person is going to agree that all of that stuff is very bad, that none of that stuff is in the Bible. That's very true. The Left Behind series is not in the Bible. There's no scripture for that stuff. This idea of escapism, that's not in the Bible. So we obviously should throw those ideas out because they're not in the Bible. But the rapture or the being caught up into the sky or the resurrection, whatever you'd like to call it, it's the moment where the believers who are dead and alive get sucked up into the sky with Jesus. Whatever you want to call that, that is a biblical doctrine. When it happens, well, it happens at the second coming of Christ. Why? Because the Bible tells us that very clearly. So when Jesus comes back in the clouds, those who are alive and those who are dead will be raised up to meet him in the clouds. It's a very simple doctrine. It's very biblical doctrine. It's in the Bible in multiple places. It's called the rapture. And the people who don't believe in the rapture are the people who don't want to believe the Bible. And you know what? The Bible calls those people false teachers. And their teaching will spread like gangrene, in the words of the NIV. Very dangerous stuff. Be aware of preterism. Be aware of partial preterism, because what they're spreading is a false doctrine. It's not true. They're all messed up. They've gotten, they're like a man in the book of James, as it describes. It says a double-minded man. He's unstable in all his ways. You'll find that with preterism. My name is Adam Jordan Clark. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to comment below and tell you something interesting or a really cool story. And don't forget to subscribe, because I publish a brand new video every single day on something interesting that you need to know about the Bible. My name is Adam Jordan Clark. And as always, I will see you in the next video.